Thank you, everybody, for coming. I just want to let everybody know that the hearing officer is running a little bit behind. He's trying to find parking. We're trying to get him here as soon as possible, so please stay patient. Thank you very much.
I'm going to do a quick sound check, and I think that is sounding good. Okay. And then I'd also like to confirm with the county staff that we have the applicant and their representatives and anyone else we're expecting.
Hearing officer, they're all in attendance.
Fantastic. Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order then, and we will go on the record. My name is Taylor Hartstein. I'm an attorney in private practice in New Mexico, and I've been designated. Is this better? Thank you for the feedback. I am an attorney. I'm Taylor Hartstein. I'm an attorney in private practice in New Mexico, and I've been designated by the Board of County Commissioners as the hearing officer for the Sustainable Land Development Code hearings, pursuant to the Sustainable Land Development Code. There were 2 matters on the agenda today, but 1 matter has been tabled. The remaining matter is case number 26-5050, which is requests for several variances made by applicant Samara Real Property and its agent Jenkins Gavin. I would like to confirm with the county staff that there are no changes to the agenda.
Hearing Officer Hartstein, there are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. A couple of procedural matters. You'll see we have a full house today, and people are perfectly welcome and invited to give commentary. I may, when it comes time for public commentary and the commentary of registered organizations and community organizations, I may ask for representatives of any organizations or any kind of organized groups, and I will decide an amount of time to allot those representatives. We will also ask for commentary from neighbors within 500 feet and also from members of the public. It may be necessary to impose a time limitation on those comments. I anticipate that this will be a relatively long hearing, and I'm fine with that, but we're not going to be here all night. So I appreciate your cooperation with making sure this is an efficient process, that people have an opportunity to be heard. So I'll provide more detail on that as we kind of identify who's planning to speak today. I'll note that I've reviewed the voluminous written submissions that have been submitted to the county staff in this case and have been made part of the record as Exhibit I. It's many hundreds of pages, and I have reviewed all of that material, and I will consider that in issuing my recommended order. I further wanted to clarify that the scope of today's proceeding is largely limited to the application of my review, at least, is largely limited to the application of the variance criteria in the Sustainable Land Development Code to the variance requests. The conceptual plan is relevant to the variance requests, but the conceptual plan itself is not before me, and I'm not recommending an order one way or the other on the conceptual plan. My recommended order will be limited to the 3 variance requests that are before me today. All right, with that all said, I'm going to call case number 26-5050 and ask for the staff's presentation.
I do. Thank you. Michael Voss, Land Use Administrator, and I understand that I'm under oath. Before we get into the case, Kenny is going to pass out some additional written comments that were submitted since the submittal was compiled and posted, as well as an updated conceptual plan, because the conceptual plan was an exhibit to the application, even though that's not being heard in and of itself today. So this afternoon, we are here to discuss case number 26-5050, 3 variances by Samara Real Property for a proposed development on both sides of Camino La Tierra, north of Highway 599, as shown on this screen. As was mentioned, there are 3 variances for this request. To that are related to the setback table, Table 7A in the SLDC, to reduce side and rear setbacks in the residential estate zoning district from 25 feet to 10 feet. A request for a variance to reduce the driveway separation from the return radius of intersections from 100 feet to 60 feet, and to allow disturbances of 30% slopes in targeted locations throughout the site for drainage purposes. So really the scope is limited to these more technical things, and the larger development proposal will be separately heard by the Board of County Commissioners at a future date. The variance review criteria are outlined in Chapter 4, Section 4.9.7.4 of the SLDC, and ultimately it's the Planning Commission that will make this decision following the hearing officer's recommendation. And that the three variances must meet the following criteria: that the request is not contrary to the public interest, that due to some extraordinary or exceptional situation or condition of the property, the application of the code results in practical difficulties or undue hardship, and that the spirit of the SLDC is observed and substantial justice is done. The last one meaning essentially we don't want to vary our codes unnecessarily, but we need to balance that with allowing folks to use their property in following the code, or they're allowed to, they've got private property rights. In addition, the Planning Commission can impose conditions on the granting of a variance, and in the staff report, and you'll hear later, staff is recommending some conditions be imposed on these variance approvals. Those are to conclude, if the variance is necessary, that the condition helps manage the intent of the SLDC and the SGMP being met, and that it prevents any adverse impacts on health, safety, and general welfare. The variances do run with the land for future owners, unless otherwise specified. So for example, the setback variance, if it were to be approved, the future homeowners would have those setback variances for any future additions and things for their homes. And the variances will expire within 1 year of the date of the approval unless the applicant files a plat or substantial construction is initiated. So the review procedure today, we're discussing those variance requests. The hearing officer will hear these and make a recommendation within 15 business days. The Planning Commission the intent is that the Planning Commission will hear these at a hearing in May, and then if their decision, whatever it may be, is appealed, that would go to the Board of County Commissioners. The conceptual plan, staff is reviewing that concurrently to the variances, but it is only an exhibit for a rationale for why these specific variances may be necessary. But the decision on that case for the actual subdivision and proposed development plan will be by the Board of County Commissioners at a future date to be decided. I will note that relevant studies, assessments, and reports that were required for the conceptual plan that are not applicable to the variances are not in the record. For example, there is a traffic study that has been done. It is not currently in the record. If the hearing officer believes that having a copy of the traffic study is relevant to the case, let staff know and we will be able to enter that into the record. And I will turn it over to Kenneth Quintana to go over our analysis and recommendation.
Thank you, Michael. Staff analysis of the variance criteria. Number 1, variance criteria request is not contrary to the public interest. SLDC section 8.12 allows for a density bonus for projects that cluster development and conserve open space. This allows for more efficient building practices, promotes more compact building environments, and preserves larger areas of open space, all of which are foundation to sustainable growth as called for in the Sustainable Growth Management Plan. Additionally, this project proposes setting aside 50% open space, which in the residential estate zoning district allows for approximately 30% bonus density. The formula used to calculate that is base density times 1.33, the density bonus. The base density equals 305 acres divided by 2.5 equals 121 homes. With the bonus at 1.33 roughly 160 homes can be built upon said site. Open space is 150 plus acres. Number 2, the variance request is necessary to offset practical difficulties or undue hardship on the owner. The setbacks required in residential estate zoning create a practical difficulty for setting houses on smaller lots. Reducing setbacks allows each building footprint to customize for the unique conditions of the lot, related to topographical features and vegetation. Additionally, several drainages cross the site which affect where home sites can be located, and clustering homes helps to mitigate impact on these areas. Reducing the distance required between driveways and intersections as proposed in this application is another way to accommodate cluster development. Lastly, limited disturbance of 30% slopes allows for stabilization of drainage features that may otherwise continue to grow and impact the infrastructure, homes, and homeowners in the future. 3, the variance request observes the spirit of the SLDC and substantial justice is done, allowing clustered lots and encouraging a variety of housing types in a development pattern supported by the policies of the SGMP and implemented through the regulations of the SLDC. Preserving larger contiguous open space areas protects natural drainage channels, plant and animal habitat, and facilitates the development of trail connections to nearby trail networks. This will provide a benefit to the public as well as the ecological health of the area. Staff's recommendation that the properties within the residential estate zoning district, the request for a variance of SLDC Chapter 7, Table 7A- setback table for reduction of side and rear setbacks in the residential estate zoning district from 25 to 10 feet. The request for a variance of Section 7.11.12.1.4 for reduction of driveway separation from the return radius of intersections from 100 feet to 60 feet, and the request for a variance of Section 7.17.4.3 disturbance of 30% slopes is well taken and staff recommends approval. Staff believe the applicants have satisfied the criteria for granting of the requested variances and recommend approval of the variance request and impose the following conditions. Hearing Officer Hartstein, staff would like to read these conditions into the record.
The conditions are entered into the record. Thank you.
There has been a change to condition number 4. May staff read that condition?
What is the change to condition number 4?
Change in condition number 4 reads as follows. Disturbance of slopes exceeding 30% grade is permitted solely for erosion control and bank stabilization purposes. No other development, grading, or construction activity on slopes exceeding 30% grade is approved by this variance, except for the locations of utilities, drainage structures, slope retention structures, and access roads and driveways as allowed by SLDC Section 7.17.9.2.4.
Could you repeat the provision, the SLDC provision? Just the citation.
Section 7.17.9.2.4.
Thank you.
Staff requests the hearing officer memorize findings of fact and conclusions of law in a written recommended order. The Santa Fe County Planning Commission may be holding a public hearing on this matter on May 21st, 2026. Thank you, hearing officer. I stand for any questions.
The condition that you mentioned, condition number 4, limiting disturbance of slopes exceeding 30% to erosion control, to utilities, the uses that you specified under the SLDC, that would be part of the variance that would run with the land, right? So if somebody were to buy one of these properties, they would be subject to that limitation as well?
Hearing officer Hartstein, that is correct.
Okay. The residential E or Res E zoning classification, my reading of it is that it's for large lot and suburban type residential development, ranchettes, and other compatible uses. And it indicates that single family homes on medium-sized lots are among those uses. Is the use proposed by the applicant consistent with Res E zoning requirements?
Hearing officer Hartstein, the proposal is consistent with the SLDC requirements and with the clustering of the developments, the necessity for the variances as requested.
Okay. As far as the application of the variance criteria, under Chapter 4, Section 4.9.7.4. Criterion 2 indicates that there needs to be an extraordinary or exceptional situation or conditions of the property. It's my understanding that you've identified the natural drainage as one of the relevant conditions of the property, and that you've identified among the extraordinary and exceptional situations kind of the situation that results from the distribution of land that is to be preserved and land that is to be developed on the property. Am I correct that those are the exceptional conditions and the exceptional situations and the conditions of the property that are relevant to this request?
Hearing Officer Hartstein, that is correct.
Okay. I noted that a couple of the reviewing agencies had not provided a comment or had provided conditional approval. Are there any updates from the reviewing agencies since the date the staff report was authored?
Hearing Officer Hartstein, there have been no additional comments provided from the review agencies.
Okay. That is all the questions I have for staff. Thanks.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite the applicant or its representative to be sworn in and give a presentation on behalf of the applicant. We'll do the
I do. Great, thank you. Good afternoon, oh God, really loud, okay. Good afternoon, Hearing Officer Hartstein. I'm Jennifer Jenkins with Jenkins Gavin here on behalf of Samara Real Property in request for the variances that staff just reviewed with you. I'll go through my presentation and touch on some of the items that you have touched on yourself, and then we'll be happy to stand for any questions. So let me just back up real quick, just a few quick introductions. And I am going to use the little hand as much as I can so you can see what I point to. As I mentioned, we're here on behalf of Samara Real Property, and Jenkins Gavin is the owner's representative. Planning services and landscape architecture provided locally by Surroundings. Civil engineering services by Design Ingenuity, and I am joined by Orlin Guerrero-Ortiz, who is the civil engineer on the project. Traffic engineering provided by Bohannon Houston, and wastewater engineering by Biohabitats. So the subject parcels are a little over 304 acres and are located at the northwest and northeast corner of the 599 and Camino La Tierra intersection. So this is Camino La Tierra here.
Sorry, I have it on my screen now.
That's okay, good. And then to the east of the property, this is the City of Santa Fe La Tierra Trails open space that is directly east of Tract B. I have so many objects here, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to grab. So the summary of our variance requests, we have 3 variance requests before you, one related to setbacks, one related to driveway separation, and one related to the 30% slope disturbance. And as staff mentioned, these variance requests are accompanied by a conceptual plan application, which is under review with county staff right now and will be considered later by the BCC. So the property is zoned residential estate. So everything you see in gold here is Res E zoning, which is 1 dwelling per 2.5 acres. What you see in pink, kind of to our west, this is the Tessera community. This is kind of the corner of the Aldea master plan community, and then this is Las Campanas, and those are planned development districts, so those are really governed by previously approved master plans that govern their zoning. So this is the conceptual plan that is a proposed 158-lot single-family residential subdivision. So I'm just going to walk you through a few elements. So coming north on Camino La Tierra, there's an existing roadway, Blue Canyon Trail, that serves a neighboring community to the west. So we would be retaining and improving that access, and we are proposing a roundabout at this location. So we would have access to the west and access to the east at that location. And Everything that you see in green is dedicated open space, and everything you see in orange is over 4 miles of public trails that will be dedicated. There are, and most of these trail easements are on existing trails, but there are currently no easements on the property. So they're highly used, but they are not preserved in perpetuity for public access. And that is really such a key part of the design and the plan here is twofold. It's the preservation of open space forever, and it is protecting public access through these lands, primarily accessing the La Tierra Trails open space to the east, protecting access to those areas in perpetuity. And we also are, as part of the 50% open space requirement, what makes that possible is the clustering of homes on some smaller lots, but some larger lots. Our lots range from between 1/4 to 1/3 of an acre on the small side, up to about 3.6 acres on the large size. So we have quite a variety of lot sizes, and that is intentional. We really want to have a variety of home sizes to serve different family types, people with different types of housing needs. We think that level of diversity really creates a more interesting, dynamic community. So this provides a little neighborhood context. So this map is straight out of the county assessor's website. So if you wanted to, click on your property and download property tax information, this would be the map that you would go to, and it's publicly available and accessible. So this is Camino La Tierra right there. And so we overlaid our proposed lot layout on this map. So these lots obviously don't exist yet, but just for context, we overlaid them. And then as you move west down the 599 frontage road, you have the Tessera community here, and then you have the Aldea master plan community here. And then to our north, you have La Tierra and Las Campanas neighborhoods. And so what is really interesting about this is when you look at this in the context of the surrounding area, the neighborhood fits quite well with its surroundings. It kind of creates a transition from our denser communities to the west at Aldea and Tessera, which are significantly more dense than Camino Verde, and then you get into the less dense communities to the north. So this just provides a little context for the surrounding area. So you asked about the residential estate zoning, and I think this is really important to understand the purpose of a zoning district and how any project comports with that purpose. And as you mentioned, residential estate is intended to be a combination of large lot and suburban type residential development, which I think is a perfect example of what this project is trying to achieve. And it supports single family homes on medium-sized lots, consistent with contemporary community development. So we have low to medium density residential development in established neighborhoods. Then it says density transfers and clustered development shall be allowed in order to support the conservation of open space and protect scenic features and environmentally sensitive areas. Now, one important point to make here is the established density is 1 dwelling per 2.5 acres of land area. The SLDC does not establish a minimum lot size. There is no minimum. In the previous land development code, prior to the SLDC being adopted, the code did govern minimum lot size. So if you were in an area that had 2.5 acre lot minimums, that's what it was. Every lot had to be 2.5 acres. That concept of regulating lot size was abandoned intentionally with the adoption of the SLDC. The SLDC did a couple of critical things that was a pretty big departure from the old code. One thing is it required for any subdivision over 24 lots, you have to dedicate 30% open space. So if you have a property that has to have 30% open space, it would be impossible mathematically for all the lots to be 2.5 acres, because you wouldn't have any real estate left for the open space. So that is why the lot size regulations were abandoned, because all it did was produce sprawl, and we were not generating open space and protecting open space throughout Santa Fe County. And so the lot size is not regulated. They regulate lot frontage. How wide does your lot need to be? Regulate some setbacks that we're going to talk about, but lot size is not regulated. So so as also mentioned, because of the open space preservation, the project is entitled to a density bonus, and which is, I'm going to talk about in a second. And the project's also complying with Santa Fe County's affordable housing regulations and providing 18 affordable homes within the project. So the density bonus is, for the open space, is 39 additional lots. For the affordable housing, there's also a density bonus of 2/3 of a home per affordable home for a total of 12. So adding all of this together, the actual maximum permissible density in this community is 172 lots. So we are not even taking advantage of the density bonus that is permissible with the affordable housing. And so we are only proposing 158 lots. So with respect to the setback variance, what we're trying to achieve with this is twofold. One is that having some flexibility on where homes are sited on the lots accomplishes several things. It creates more diversity in the design of the homes, and it also allows us to respond to the conditions on each lot. If a lot has some steeper terrain, if a lot has some small drainages that we want to protect, we need the flexibility to do that. Our goal is to minimize disturbance, minimize retaining walls. But I do want to point out that on our west boundary, where we have adjacent residential neighbors, we are maintaining the requisite 25-foot setback along our west boundary. So the variance does not apply to our west boundary. And staff is recommending approval of the variance, finding that large setbacks create a practical difficulty for constructing a variety of housing on smaller lots. And staff believes this criterion is met as the proposed development meets the spirit and intent of both the SGMP and the SLTC to allow the development of the property at a density allowed by the code while simultaneously preserving open space through clustering of lots. So this is the row of lots. I've rotated the plan. So to the right is south towards 599. To the left is heading north on Camino La Tierra. And this is the proposed roundabout. So you come in and we have our first row of homes here. This is some of the flattest terrain within the acreage. So this is where our smaller lots are located to take advantage of the gentle terrain in this area. So with the requisite setbacks, it's kind of the law of unintended consequences. What are the consequences of that? The consequences are you're going to end up with more homogeny in terms of house design and less diversity and not as good design. We've heard a lot of comments about the community's concerns about what is this going to look like as I drive down Camino La Tierra. I will point out that the setback from the drive lane to the first lot is at a minimum about 190 feet. So there's a significant buffer there. But this is not a design that we believe does this project justice. And so what we're trying to achieve with this is homes that do not all sit in the exact same location on the lot. We get more diversity architecturally, and it is a better design. And so I think as staff has pointed out, There are elements in a code, especially, you know, the SLDC is still relatively new. We've been working with this code for the last 10 years. And understanding we have the encouragement and the incentivizing of clustering, but yet there are elements in the code that are antithetical to that mission. And so with this change, we are able to create a more attractive, more aesthetic community in compliance with the mission and goals of the SGMP.
If you don't mind if I jump in just with a quick
Sure,
question.
of course.
I saw on one of the previous slides and in the materials that the applicant is proposing a 50% lot coverage limitation.
That is correct.
In connection with. So I saw, thank you. I saw that from one of the prior slides and in the materials that the applicant is proposing a 50% lot limitation, sorry, a 50% coverage limitation on the lot size.
Yes.
And my question is how that interacts with, so if you reduce the setback requirements, theoretically you could build a bigger house that goes closer to the property lines. How does that interact with this 50% lot coverage limitation?
Great, thank you very much. That's a great question, Mr. Hartstein. So with respect to the setback variance, concerns were expressed, well, you're just gonna build giant McMansions, that's a quote, and giant McMansions, and you're gonna push the house to the furthest reaches of the setback. That is not the intent. And so currently in the residential estate zoning district, there is no lot coverage limitation or limitation on the size of roofed area. It's not in there. And I actually didn't realize that. And so in going back and looking at this, like, well, we should have a lot coverage limitation because the intent of this request has nothing to do with being able to build giant homes on small lots. So we are self-imposing that limitation that would be project-wide, which would make it much more restrictive than any neighboring properties.
Okay, understood, thanks.
So secondarily, we also have a site that has some terrain conditions. The site is eminently developable, as you can see here. So everything you see here in gray, the slopes are 15 to 20%. I'm sorry, 15 just up to like 29% slopes. So the gray areas are the steeper areas where you might have a small tributary drainage, something of that nature. Those areas, we are permitted by code to disturb those areas. We could go in, we could flatten them out, we could build retaining walls, create erosive conditions. The code would absolutely permit that. But that is not the approach that we want to take. We are much more focused on a terrain-based model of development that responds to the conditions of every single lot independently. So for example, lot 33 has a fair amount of terrain over on its west edge. So where is the optimal place to build here? The optimal place is up here. Moving over, we have some terrain conditions down in this corner. We don't want to be over there. So the buildable area, that's what my little bubbles represent here, is just the preferred buildable area. And then similarly, as you can see as you move down, these areas where the bubbles are nice and flat, very developable, we can minimize or eliminate the need for retaining walls. So this is what we are focused on. And so this is what this setback variance enables us to do, is to treat each lot independently. And our design standards and covenants will speak to this. Like, you don't get to build your house on the steepest part of the lot, right? But if we reduce that flexibility, we may not have an option. So that's what we are hoping to achieve. So there have been comments made that having homes that potentially could be within 20 feet of one another, not every home, but if you got a 10-foot setback on each lot, that would be a potential distance between homes, that creates more fire risk. So interestingly, the U.S. Forest Service, the Colorado State Forest Service, and the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA, they advocate for clustered subdivisions because they enhance fire resilience. It's a better design for fire protection. By concentrating homes, these designs allow for protected open space buffers, reduce infrastructure exposure, and easier implementation of collective defensible spaces rather than sprawl development. So how does this work? As I said, protective open space buffers. We reduce landscaping fuel. Concentrating homes limits the area of home ignition zones that require intense, ongoing vegetation management compared to large lot suburban sprawl, where every house is surrounded by wildland fuel. It's easier to defend. Compact developments are easier for firefighters to protect than scattered homes in the wildland-urban interface, as fewer resources are needed to cover a smaller area. And it encourages fire-resistant construction. Cluster developments often adopt stricter building codes, such as Class A roofing and ignition-resistant siding, which are crucial for preventing home-to-home ignition during a wildfire. So we have several standards that will be embedded in the conceptual plan and notated on the subdivision plat as requirements that run with the land, and will also be documented in the restrictive covenants for the community. So every lot must comply with Santa Fe County's vegetation management plan, which dictates how far trees must be from a home, how far trees must be from one another, keeping brush cleared from the ground, and a variety of measures in that regard. In addition, every home will have a 5-foot buffer of hardscape around the home. So no vegetation under windows, no trees right next to the house within that 5-foot zone. Every roof will be a Class A fire-rated assembly, and all non-combustible materials on the exterior. Good news is, these homes will be stuccoed, and that material complies. Installation of ember-resistant vents. And only, this is very important, only non-combustible walls or fencing within 5 feet of a home. So let's say, you had a fence that kind of terminated into the corner of the house here, and then it came out to the edge. Within 5 feet, you couldn't have a wood fence that terminated in your house. That would have to be a wrought iron, or it would have to be a CMU stuccoed wall, some other material. So these measures, we really see this as this type of fire resiliency planning should be required for every new project in Santa Fe. Absolutely. So we are being incredibly proactive to ensure that we are employing best practices in that regard. So the subject property is in the Agua Fria Fire District and is served by Station 2, which is about 1.25 miles up the road on Camino La Tierra. The station is staffed 24/7. There is a ISO rating, which is what insurance companies use when they are assessing insurance coverage. And the public protection classification rating for these homes in this location is a rating of 5. And the project will be served by county water, and the entire project will be served with a series of 16 fire hydrants. And we do have a recommendation for approval from the Santa Fe County Fire Marshal with respect to the plan and the variances. Okay, with respect to driveway separation. So the code states that driveways shall be a minimum of 100 feet from the return radius of an intersection. So I've known about this. I've been working with the county code for many years. And in all those years, no one has been able to provide the rationale for that requirement. I inquired with engineers, civil engineers, traffic engineers. I got nothing. I inquired with county staff. Still, nobody really knows what problem this provision was trying to solve. For example, the AASHTO Green Book, which is the federal standard that is applied for roadway design, they reference site distance. Just make sure you're addressing site distance when you design driveways. So our civil engineer, Orlin Guerrero-Ortiz, analyzed every intersection, every corner lot, and determined that a 60-foot separation was more than sufficient to ensure adequate site distance. So that has been established by an engineer for this particular circumstance, this particular project. In addition, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which governs how traffic studies are prepared, in all of those standards. They say driveways should be at least 5 to 20 feet from the return curb radius at intersections, especially at major cross streets. We don't have any major cross streets within this community, but 5 to 20 feet is that national standard. Okay, so if we look more locally, what is the local standard? So the city of Santa Fe, our adjacent jurisdiction, their requirement is a 10-foot driveway separation. And so with 60 feet, we are more than accommodating safe travel of vehicles and adequate sight distance. So what this image is showing, so we're required to have a 28-foot radius at our intersections to accommodate fire trucks. So these are nice, fat radii, really easy intersections to navigate. So what this shows here is from this blue line back to this blue line is the 100-foot separation. And then what we're requesting is from this blue line to this blue line, which is the 60 feet. There can be 3 cars waiting to turn on Blue Canyon Trail, which based upon how many homes are on this particular street, would be highly unlikely that there would be that many cars waiting at that stop sign at any given time. And so there, again, there is no engineering basis for such a significant separation. And this separation also is antithetical to this concept of clustering smaller lots. And for example, the minimum lot width for in the residential estate is 100 feet. So how can you have a 100-foot lot and a 100-foot driveway separation? So those two things are inherently contradictory to one another. And as a point of comparison, so the community college district, which is down in the south of the city of Santa Fe, this ordinance was adopted back in 2000. And the community college district was established and created to curb sprawl, maximize infrastructure efficiency, and preserve open space. Accordingly, in the CCD, all new projects are required to provide 50% open space and to cluster homes. It's embedded in this ordinance. The minimum required density, it's not a maximum, it's a minimum, is 3.5 dwellings per acre. So this same driveway separation is part of the community college district ordinance. However, in that ordinance, the land use administrator has authority to approve modifications to the roadway standards per the citation at the bottom. I have done numerous projects in the community college district, as has Orlin, my civil engineer. This requirement has been waived by the land use administrator on every project, every single one, because they recognize it is inconsistent with the greater needs of the clustering and the open space preservation. And I am unaware of any massive safety challenges occurring in the community college district that is developed at a much higher density than what we are proposing. So there is significant precedent for this within Santa Fe County. So we are not asking for something that is outside the realm of what has been deemed already a reasonable request. So with respect to the slope variance, there are some erosive conditions and some existing arroyos within the open space that we are proposing. And we would like to stabilize those arroyos to prevent further head cutting. And one of the things that happens as the tops of these arroyos start to do this, what happens is it sends a massive amount of silt downstream, where you can have in a neighboring subdivision, there could be a culvert that is that is supporting this particular arroyo that fills with silt. So the water quality is degraded because there's so much silt in the stormwater as it moves downstream. And then it keeps, you know, the head cutting keeps growing, and eventually can create, it's just an ongoing issue. And so we would like the opportunity voluntarily to address some of these circumstances within the community. So what we're seeing here, that is 6 feet deep. And you can see that this is practically a vertical wall here. And then you can see the tree roots in this situation. I know it's a little hard with the shadow, but those are the tree roots of the juniper tree that are exposed because all of the soil has washed away. So we are proposing to use strategically placed rock material in order to stabilize those points on the arroyo. So this is one example where you install rock on the ground up above, and then you install it down below, and it protects that steep slope. And also, the cobble or the rock in the filter fabric that is installed also cleans the stormwater. And you have better water quality as the water moves downstream and less impacts on downstream infrastructure. And then this is something, it's called the Zuni Bowl. Nobody really knows where that came from, but I'm going to venture that this is potentially a Native American practice for stormwater management. And you can see that rocks are stacked where the head cutting is happening. Then you actually put in a check dam to slow the water down and slow the velocity down so you get more percolation into the aquifer and you get less erosive conditions. So this is an example of a Zuni bowl. So you can see how that would look. And so again, we're taking a light touch. We don't want anything to appear overly engineered. And then eventually, as vegetation takes hold, these things kind of start to disappear into the landscape. And then this is a neighborhood just up the street, next to the fire station, the Tierra Antigua subdivision that is currently under construction. And you can see we had this little tributary, and we had some conditions here. So rocks were placed in these locations in filter fabric. And so again, a very light touch approach. So that concludes my presentation. I really appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I think starting where you left off, the disturbance that is contemplated to the 30% or more slopes, that's these Zuni bowls and the accompanying fabric, as well as provisions for what staff altered condition 4 to achieve.
Yeah, let's talk. I'm glad you brought that up. Let me just touch on that a little bit. So this is the slope analysis for the project. So everything you see in red is a 30% slope or greater. Okay, so where you see like up here, this is some of the areas where we have some of those photos were taken, where some of those erosive conditions are occurring. But the code has a provision understanding that if you have to cross an arroyo for a utility extension or to build a roadway in order to access your property, you're entitled to some limited slope disturbance. You're entitled by code, by right, 3 occurrences, a maximum of 3 occurrences, and each occurrence cannot exceed 1,000 square feet. Okay, so you get a total of 3,000 square feet of disturbance in 3 occurrences. So we are utilizing that code provision for some arroyo crossings for infrastructure purposes. So we don't need a variance for that. That is just embedded in the code. So that is what staff was trying to clarify with condition number 4, is the limitations on the 30% slope disturbance is strictly for erosion control. We are not looking to create more developable area at all. And but that it does not apply to the infrastructure crossings.
Okay, so to be clear, the adjustment to the condition is to bring the condition back to what the code requires and not make the condition more restrictive than the existing code?
Exactly. Thank you. That's perfectly put. Yes.
Okay. I think you mentioned the 2.5 acre per dwelling requirement having changed from the previous version of the code, being kind of per property. per lot to not being applicable per lot. And I think you said that it wouldn't be possible or it wouldn't be feasible, I forget which word you used, to do that old code requirement in this development. I guess theoretically, it would be possible to do one dwelling per 2.5 acres on a per lot basis, but that would result in a lot fewer
Correct.
lots. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, but what I understand that you're saying is that the existing code doesn't require that 2.5 acre per dwelling calculation on a per lot basis, correct?
Correct. It is a density calculation. It's the math that determines how many dwellings or lots a particular project is entitled to. So you take our 304 acres, divided by 2.5, you get 121 lots. So how you want to do those 121 lots is up to you. You would have to have 30% open space, and then you could do those 121 lots however you see fit in compliance with the dimensional standards. Or in our case, we're wanting to do more open space, so we're doing 50% open space. But there is no regulation in the SLDC that says your lot must be 2.5 acres.
Okay,
I guess that was the point I was trying to make.
understood. You discussed the density bonus and the affordable housing bonus, and I can confirm this with the staff, but my understanding is that those are provided for under the SLDC and are separate from the variance requests, right?
That is correct.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for now. As always, the applicant is going to have the final word after we hear additional commentary, and so I may ask you some questions based on commentary that
Great.
is raised, but I appreciate your presentation.
Great. Thank you, Hearing Officer Harshline. And I do reserve the right to respond prior to the close of the public hearing.
You have that right.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I understand we may have some people joining us on video conference. I'm going to start by asking for representatives of registered organizations or community organizations. And I'm sorry to do this, but if you could identify yourself by a show of hands, I just want to see how many people we have as representatives in order to determine a time allotment. So it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's currently 4 o'clock. So we have 8 representatives of registered organizations and community organizations. Are there any other representatives of citizen organizations or members of the public who are speaking as representatives? Okay, it looks like no. And then my next question is, are there neighbors within 500 feet who are speaking on behalf of themselves? Thanks, and it looks like 1, 2, 3. Okay, probably around 10. And then members of the community who would like to be heard who are not neighbors within 500 feet. It looks like similar, maybe a couple dozen. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask representatives of registered organizations and community organizations to limit time to, let's say 6 minutes. And then for neighbors, so calculating this out, if we do 6 minutes for the 8 representatives, that's going to be 48 minutes. It's currently 4 o'clock. If we then do neighbors and give them, I would say 4 minutes, that's approximately 40 more minutes. So that would take us to about 5:30. And then I'm going to say 1 minute for members of the public, which I think would take us to about 6 o'clock if we're pretty efficient about this. So understanding that efficiency is a goal, as well as making sure that people have the opportunity to be heard. Those are the conditions that I'm going to impose. I may change those if necessary, but I think that will be sufficient for our purposes. So I'm going to ask staff to put up a timer for, I said 6 minutes for representatives, and we can get started with representatives of registered organizations and community organizations. And so whoever wants to kick it off, feel free to come on down. I think that would be appropriate, and that would save time. Let me pause for a second and ask the staff, how many people do we have joining us on video?
We have approximately 37 people online.
Okay,
I would ask anyone wishing to speak online if they would just put up raise their virtual hand. That way you can be identified. That way when it comes to time to identify those online who wish to speak.
and I think I may have said 6:30 instead of 5:30 when I was calculating out time, but in any event, I think we will be, we'll be done in a reasonable amount of time proceeding in the way that I've suggested. Mr. Cisneros, how many people online have identified themselves?
We have currently 37 people online, but some of that is staff, so I don't have an exact number of who online is wishing to speak at this time.
Okay. Is there anyone online, please raise your hand, either your physical hand with your video on or your virtual hand, who's a representative of a community organization or registered organization? Okay, then I think that if we keep to the time limits I specified, I don't think that having an opportunity for people joining online to speak, I don't think that's going to throw us off too much. So I appreciate your patience, sir.
You're welcome.
I'm going to ask the court reporter to swear in basically everyone who's in person or online who's interested in giving a statement. And then I'm going to ask, as you come up, the code requires people who are offering testimony to identify their address. So I will ask everyone to be sworn in simultaneously, and then when you come up to give a statement, please just provide your address, business address, or personal address.
I do.
Thank you. I was going to add that. So when you step up to the microphone, give an address, confirm that you are aware you're under oath, and then proceed, and then we'll start the clock when you proceed.
I am aware of the oath. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. My name is
Sorry,
William.
your address as well?
My address is 13 Sundance Drive in Santa Fe.
Thank you, sir. Go
My
ahead.
name is William Whitney. I address you as both an affected citizen who uses the Camino La Tierra daily, as well as a member of the Tanner Road Association, whose members are concerned about developments bordering on several sides of the Tanner Road boundaries. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My concern I'll talk to you about is relative to traffic. During the Zoom call in March, when asked about the estimated number of vehicles associated with the proposed 158 homes, the developer's agent stated they were in the midst of review. I respectfully suggest that this review should have been well and truly completed before the application was submitted. Accordingly, this study necessarily failed to accurately reflect the aggregate traffic flow over the course of a full year, let alone the project life and beyond. A blip in time counting cars does not paint a true picture. I take exception to the traffic impact analysis, section 4, page 23, which said, for this study, they used a fitted curve equation for single dwelling detached housing, referencing ITE land use code 210 for trip calculations. The ITE is a well-established and internationally recognized community whose vast collection of data is used to work to improve mobility and safety. They are the experts, so I can understand why the consultant wanted to use that data. However, the current 11th edition of the data regarding land use codes no longer recognizes code 210 as used by the consultant. Yet now code 215 applies to single-family attached housing in urban and suburban areas. A description that I don't believe is accurately addresses the Camino La Tierra setting. One can deduce that there's insufficient data to support a standalone category of suburban rural, yet the consultant applied arguably insufficient and inappropriate data I apologize. Insufficient and inappropriate data to outdated fitted curves to determine findings that the developer now asks you, sir, as steward of our natural resources, and has a mandate under county plans and initiatives to accept their findings as reasonable and accurate. Furthermore, construction-related traffic appears not to have been taken into account in the analysis, when arguably it will play a significant role for years. As a corollary matter, I take exception to the environmental impact report on noise, page 19, where it's acknowledged that construction will generate noise, but the disturbance will be transient and would end once construction is complete. Developer's agent advised during the Zoom call that the phase development would occur over 7 years. Such a prolonged disturbance would seem to support a claim of nuisance. For those of us pushing the limits of the actuarial tables in pursuit of a dream to live out the remainder of our lives in this incredibly spiritual place, such a period becomes a life sentence, a death knell. The EIR notes a slight increase in traffic and can be expected to create some noise, but then goes on to suggest that, well, State Highway 599 will likely generate, quote, likely generate more traffic noise than the construction or build out of the development. You are now asked to make decisions based in part on noise on one firm's guesstimate of a likeliness. This speculation, without the benefit of hard scientific data to support such a statement, should not be summarily accepted. In closing, while there's so many more things I'd like to address following the presentation that was made that we don't have an opportunity to look at and rebut, but the spirit of the Sustainable Land Development Plan acknowledges the elements that contribute most to Santa Fe's county's distinctive character: respect for place, efficient development patterns, and local and regional traditions. Plans are supposed to protect and preserve community character and integrity and honor existing community plans. Again, the developer's proposal does not honor us or show respect to those of us in the existing community. The developer's intent shows a knowing disregard for the existing communities by attempting to leech off the existing property values to further create the facade of an opera to airport concept. This project does not, notwithstanding what the staff had reported, I believe that this project does not live up to the spirit of the land development plan. I've raised questions about the veracity of both the traffic analysis and the EIR. I believe it is within your authority to decline the variance request. Alternatively, I believe there is sufficient justification for you to table the developer's request for a variance waiver until these and other material issues are more carefully reviewed, including consideration of public input. Thank you for your time, sir, and may God bless you in your determinations.
Thank you, Mr. Whitney. We'll proceed to the next witness. So please just acknowledge your address and acknowledge.
I am under oath,
And your address, please.
and my name is William Fireeyes, and I live at 3217 Calle Celestial, and I represent the La Mariposa Homeowners Association. I am also the Emergency Preparedness and Fire Safety Chair for La Mariposa HOA. Our HOA just touches one corner of Camino Verde, so we are also within 500 feet of the development. All of Camino La Tierra is a high fire danger area with marginal fire department support. The ISO rating for our HOA is 3, so I don't know why a rating of 5 was cited during the presentation previously. Because of this, many insurance companies have already withdrawn from the area and canceled policies. Camino Verde creates a choke point on the only viable evacuation route for hundreds, if not 1,000, homes to the north and west. The requested zoning variance allows more homes and increases the congestion at this choke point if we should ever have to evacuate in front of a fire. Our zoning exists for reasons, among them public safety. This puts those of us who live to the north in danger and puts a liability on the counter for creating a public safety danger. Please do not grant this variance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before the clock starts, can I ask you a question?
You can ask me a question, yes.
Okay, I'm one of 3 representatives from RRO, so can I split my 6 minutes to 2 minutes each?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Dewey Lederer. I live at 23 Thistle Lane. I understand that I am under oath. I have a piece of paper I'd like to give you if that's okay.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, you can come up. Or you can give it to staff, either way.
So yeah, no, I've got. There we go. Okay, we ready? Here's my 2 minutes.
Go ahead.
I introduced myself. I would like to object and believe that this development is contrary to the mission statement of the SLDC. I'm not going to go through the whole definition of a mission statement, but I will read that a mission statement defines why an organization exists, what it aims to achieve, and how it serves its customers or community. It goes on and gets a little more detailed, but that's the basis of what a mission statement is. Now I'd like to read the mission statement of the SLDC itself. To preserve the character of our existing communities and unique rural landscapes. Guide future growth and development through effective planning, zoning, data analysis, permitting, and enforcement. Make available meaningful choices in terms of alternative living environments and lifestyles, and preserve resources for future generations, and address the needs and concerns of our citizens while ensuring their quality of life. I'd like to repeat that first sentence of a mission statement, which is the guiding principle behind any organization when they make decisions. To preserve the character of our existing communities and unique rural landscapes. This is contrary to the developer's conceptual plan. I'd also like to state that our subdivision directly abuts Camino Verde subdivision. Serious concerns about the appropriateness of the plan with respect to current zoning and intent of Santa Fe County Growth Management Plan. The two parcels are zoned Res E, residential estate, with the density as we've already discussed. These are not consistent with developments north of 599 towards Las Campanas. We recognize that parcels are private property and an owner has a right to develop the properties. The owner does not have the right to develop the properties in a way that would destroy the long-standing rural character of the surrounding communities as embodied by the residential estate zoning. Current zoning would allow 55 houses on Tract A, 66 on Tract B, for a total of 121.
You are over the time.
I'm over the 2 minutes?
I try to cut you at the end of a complete thought. I understand that you were citing some of the facts about the development, and I have that information.
Okay.
And so if we could move on to the next
In
witness.
closing, I would just like to repeat, to preserve the character of our existing communities and unique rural landscapes. This plan does not adhere to that.
Thank you. Okay, please introduce yourself. Let us know your address and confirm that you're under oath.
Hi, I'm in another group. You want?
I see. We'll start you again at
Want to
6.
start the clock, or you want to?
Yeah, we'll start you at 6.
Great, thanks. Hi, I'm at 99 Bluestem. My name is Tom DiZino. I'm from the Colinas Verdes Homeowners Association. I'm a director. Sure, I'm used to that. D like David, I, space, Z like zebra, I, N, N, O. Thank you. I've been working with the Las Colinas Verdes, the Colinas Verdes group, and the Las Campanas group on fire evacuation plan. So I'm going to reiterate what you heard from speaker number 2, and I'm going to ask the county people and the developer to please pay attention, because I think I'm not seeing any planning in any of your papers for the problem that we are facing. The problem we are facing is every time we work on an evacuation plan, the core problem is the intersection of 599 and Camino La Tierra. That's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where the problem's going to develop. I am a veteran of the San Diego Police Department, and I've worked in 2 fires, the Cedar and the Witch Creek. I saw 2,800 homes burnt in the first fire and tens of thousands of acres burned in the second fire. Our problem was evacuating people. You cannot have a funnel to get people out. And all I'm seeing in all the development is we have now put a bigger ball of people at the exit point out of the development. Who is responsible for planning that? The turnaround looks like a disaster for somebody that's been trying to evacuate people through fire. You can't do it. Somewhere, somehow, the developer and you, the county, have to think about this. You don't want to be wringing our hands after people are dead. It's a problem. It needs to be written into the planning, and it needs to be faced. That's really our biggest problem with this development. It's right at the crux of us getting out alive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Back to the RO from the previous speaker.
Okay, so 2 minutes, and if you
My
please.
name's William Schindler, 40 East Wildflower Drive, and I understand the oath. I would like to address the open space bonus credits claimed by the applicant. These credits are critical to the entire conceptual plan. The variances being requested are a direct result of the extreme clustering in the conceptual plan, particularly on Tract A. The allowance of the clustering is in turn dependent on the transfer of 22 units of open space bonus credits from Tract B. However, this transfer is not permissible under the Sustainable Land Development Code. Section 8.12.12 of the code expressly requires that a density bonus be utilized within the same parcel of land, which means that the corresponding open space must also be located within the same tract for which the density bonus is claimed. Even with all the density bonuses considered, Tract A here by itself only qualifies for 78 lots. The only way that the project as configured can qualify for a sufficient open space density bonus to locate 100 lots on Tract A is if the 2 parcels are treated as a single parcel and 22 density credits are transferred from Tract B to Tract A. However, as a matter of law, Tract A and Tract B are separate, distinct legal parcels and can in no sense be considered a single parcel. They are not adjacent, they share no common border, they are situated on opposite sides of a major thoroughfare with a 200-foot wide right-of-way owned by the state of New Mexico between them. They are located in different county commissioner districts, and they're even in separate zip codes. Applicant has provided no legal argument which would allow them to be treated as a single parcel. Without the open space transfers within a combined parcel, applicant's entire conceptual plan fails, and the consideration of the variances is moot.
Thank you, sir. Are you with the same registered organization, or are you?
I am, but
okay.
I need more than 6 minutes, or more than 2 minutes. So.
We've allocated the 6 minutes across the 3 representatives of your organization, so please do your best to
Okay.
keep it
I
within
have
2 minutes.
people from my neighborhood who have donated their time to me.
There aren't really strict time donation procedures. I understand. I understand that you may have a lot to say, and I just do you think you could do it?
I'll do my best.
Okay. Could you do it in 4 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll talk quickly. My name is Mary Jane Hale, and I live at 2 Thistle Lane. And I certify that I'm under oath. I am a resident of Tierra de Oro, HOA, a registered organization of Santa Fe County. Tierra de Oro abuts both Tract A and Tract B of the proposed Camino Verde development. I'm here to speak on 3 issues: opposition to the applicant's requested 30% slope variance, as well as opposition to the requested driveway separation variance, and also additionally technical advisory committee letter deficiency. 30% slope variance request. The applicant has requested a variance to permit disturbance of 30% plus slopes where the applicant's basis for the variance is undue hardship. Residents of the Tierra de Oro are requesting this variance be denied on the grounds that it is contrary to public interest and the claimed hardship is self-induced. It is in the public interest to preserve existing arroyos to mitigate slope instability, erosion susceptibility, water quality protection, and habitat preservation. It is contrary to public interest to cluster dozens of houses on small lots with concentrated hardscape, such as driveways, rooftops, and roadways, which produce excessive runoff and erosion, and then for the applicant to propose this self-induced problem by stabilizing naturally occurring slopes. The code permits disturbance of slopes exceeding 30% for necessities including utilities and roadways. The applicant is already utilizing this provision for approximately 2,100 square feet. The applicant's requested additional disturbance arises from their proposal, site design, and layout, rather than from any extraordinary or exceptional condition of the property. Accordingly, the hardship is self-induced by the proposed layout and does not satisfy the variance criteria under the code. It is apparent from the conceptual site plan slope analysis that multiple proposed slopes are adjacent to multiple proposed lots, are adjacent to arroyos with slopes greater than or equal to 30%. This variance would enable building closer to those arroyos, thereby improving the applicant's investment, but also introducing unnecessary and negative disruption to the natural slope and runoff capacities of the arroyos. The remedy of this issue is simply to relocate the lots farther from the arroyos or to plant fewer lots. In terms of driveway separation, the applicant has requested a variance to reduce driveway separation from intersections from 100 feet to 60 feet based on where the applicant's basis for the variance is practical difficulty. We are requesting the variance be denied on the grounds, again, that it is contrary to public interest and that the claimed practical difficulty is self-induced. SLDC 711-12-4 allows administrative reduction where existing lot boundaries or existing legal structures do not allow this separation. Here, there are no existing lot boundaries or existing legal structures. In a new subdivision, lot configuration, corner dimensions, and intersection placement are within the applicant's control, and standard design alternatives exist to achieve compliance. An asserted practical difficulty, therefore, arises from design choices rather than extraordinary or exceptional conditions of the property. The applicant has not demonstrated that compliance with the 100-foot standard is infeasible under a reasonable alternative layout as required to support a variance under SLDC 4974. Additionally, the applicant's characterization of the 100-foot standard as arbitrary and not based on any known engineering standard is unsupported. The county adopted this standard through a deliberate legislative process. Additionally, Section 711.3.4 of the SLDC explicitly references AASHTO Green Book for overall guidelines regarding road design standards. The 100-foot separation is called out specifically in the AASHTO's Green Book as the optimal distance for safety in terms of perception reaction distance, deceleration length, and turning space.
I'm going to stop you there. I appreciate that's about 4.5 minutes. I appreciate your focus on the variance criteria and the requested variances, and I appreciate your commentary. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to add for the record additionally that no TAC letter was submitted by the county or provided by the applicant corresponding to this application and the requested October 2nd, 2025 TAC meeting. The applicant provided a TAC letter that was over a year old, and nobody has been able to get a copy of a current TAC letter for this application.
Okay, that will be included in the transcript and the video. Good afternoon. Please confirm that you're aware you're under oath and introduce yourself and let us know what your address is.
Okay. My name's Tracy Tregagel. I live at 41 Paseo del Pájaro, in just between La Tierra and Tierra Precioso. The last 30 years of my 50-year construction career ended as the operations manager for a large roads construction company in Salt Lake City, Utah, along the Wasatch Front. I know roads, I know traffic, and I know traffic control. From my previous experience, I've learned that it's impossible to generate this amount of volume to a one-way in, a one-way out road, which also serves as access to several other larger developments and thousands of residences. Las Campanas, example, 1,700 homes, approximately. La Tierra, 500 homes. Tierra Precioso, 75 homes. Hasta Mañana, 20 homes. Total of about 2,400 homes beyond this development that uses this access, okay? Our main area of concerns are, one, fire, water, environmental, traffic, and the sustainability of your Santa Fe mission statement. The Camino La Tierra development is anticipated to generate, it's now called Camino Verde development, is anticipated to generate approximately 1,542 cars daily, occurring during the morning peak hours of 111 trips, 147 trips occurring at night. There is an error in the Bohannon-Houston calculation chart on page 23 in the project generation section. They're showing it calls out for 11 total vehicles. That should read 111 vehicles, okay? Traffic volume counts were conducted in a 15-minute interval during the morning peak hours from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and afternoon peaks from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And there are no weekend trips reported in the study. As a resident, we feel it's an insult to our intelligence to begin with to think that Jensen and Gavin can build this project without impeding local traffic. Hopefully the county and all you guys and ladies will review that traffic control plan and look at it. You're adding 1,500 vehicles to a 2-lane highway right now, and you're putting a roundabout in at the beginning of your construction, which typically goes at the end, but that's constructability and that's their issue. Your mission statement reads, the mission of the Building Development Service Division is to guide further future growth and development through effective planning, zoning, permitting, and enforcement, preserve resources for the future generation, and to address the needs and concerns of its citizens while ensuring their quality of life. How does this development do that? Okay, how does this development sustain our quality of life? Not to mention water. Okay, I know we're all looking at water. Water's a huge issue. We had a development to our north, Findera, I can't remember the name of it. They did a 100-year hydrology report. Said we had 99 years of water 5 years ago. Okay, well, 100 years of water, I don't know how they know that, but that's what their hydrologist report was. So, in conclusion, Bohannon and Houston study calls out for a minimal recommendations to the existing roadway configuration without any widening or any other accommodations to existing traffic flows. Adding 1,542 daily trips to the roadway will at least double the impact to thousands of residents in numerous subdivisions in the area. Emergency access for both ingress and egress will be impacted. So I guess my question is, how do you really anticipate adding 1,542 vehicles a day to a two-lane, 30-foot road without improving existing traffic flows and not inhibiting construction or emergency? Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am. I think you probably have the rules down by now in terms of introducing yourself, acknowledging that you're under oath. Thank you.
So my name is Lisa Pfeiffer. I live at 3 Star Splash in Santa Fe, and I confirm that I am under oath. I'm here today as a representative of the La Mirada Owners Association, which is a Santa Fe County registered organization. As you know, the SGMP and SLDC were enacted by the people of Santa Fe County after years of community input and thoughtful debate to protect our resources and our quality of life. I think many of the other organizations have raised concerns about conforming to the letter of those plans and codes as well as the spirit, so I'll keep this brief. Every proposed development must show consistency with the SGMP and SLDC, and our organization urges you to require compliance. Why would we have this plan and these codes if not for them to be upheld? Furthermore, variances are not to be granted simply because a developer wishes to develop, in this case, 2 tracks, but deviate from applicable codes and traffic safety standards. Variance must be justified. There are many ways in which these tracks might be developed. Proposing a different kind of use, which depends on these variances, does not in itself constitute a hardship. Finally, the SGMP envisioned a collaborative relationship between residents and government entities to solve problems of interest and concerns to all. To this end, certain procedures were implemented, such as neighbor notification. No developer should be permitted to bypass those requirements. On behalf of the La Mirada Owners Association, I urge you to uphold the SGMP and SLDC when ruling upon these variances requests.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we have the final registered organization representative. Okay, again, same rules.
Hi, I'm Mona Schaup. Oh, sorry. Okay, my name is Mona Schaup. My address is 7 Tecolote Circle, Santa Fe, 87506. I represent Northwest Residents United, registered organization. I understand I'm under oath. The variance request is incomplete without the consideration of a conceptual plan. The variance application has been submitted for approval prior to any public hearings on the Camino Verde conceptual plan. Approval of variances for a project relying on a density bonus without a public hearing on a conceptual plan does not provide the public an opportunity to address concerns regarding the viability of the project and raises concerns regarding the health and safety of the community. The density bonus section of the Sustainable Land Development Code requires that the applicant meet certain criteria which have not been met. The application proposes 158 units on 304 acres in the residential estate district, which allows 1 dwelling unit per 2.5 acres. The density bonus, if allowed, would increase the base density by over 30%, from 121 units to 158 units. The density bonus, in accordance with SLDC Section 8.12.1, allows an increase in density only if certain criteria are met, which has not been demonstrated. The variance application is based on approval of the conceptual plan with the assumption of increased densities. Variances with a density bonus should first be examined based upon the approval of a discretionary application for a conceptual plan. The application for the conceptual plan needs to be considered prior to the variance applications in order for the hearing officer, planning commission, and the board to review the project in accordance with the SLDC requirements. Density bonus requirements in accordance with Section 8.12 and Table 8-44 will need to be approved through the conceptual plan. The density bonus criteria require 50% open space and a requirement for community water and community wastewater system. The applicant has received community water. However, the technical memo indicated the county is not ready, willing, and able to provide sewer service to the development. And there is no existing Santa Fe County sewer near the development to provide sewer service. The developer has not provided any options for wastewater disposal. The requirement for community wastewater system needs to be met. Open space SLDC section 7.15 requires 30% open space for all subdivisions over 24 lots. It is unclear whether the open space density bonus can be used to meet SLDC open space requirements in this section. The Sustainable Growth Management Plan provides the policy framework for SLDC, which includes the designation of zoning districts and regulations to protect against adverse public nuisance and land use effects and impacts resulting from public or private development within the county. Before consideration of variances, I urge that this project's conceptual plan first be submitted for public hearings in order to determine its safety of the community it will serve. This is regarding the variances. Minor deviations from dimensional requirements are defined in the SLDC as not to exceed 10% of the required dimension. The variance requests exceed this definition significantly and should be considered as major deviations to the dimensional requirements for the residential estate zoning district. The proposed variances do not meet the procedural requirements nor the purposes and intent of the SLDC and the Sustainable Growth Management Plan. This variance section of the SLDC is section 4.7.7.4. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to go to neighbors within 400 feet. And I'm going to ask people to also spell their last names, if you don't mind. It just helps with the transcript when you introduce yourself. All right, please.
This is going to be very simple.
Just use the microphone.
Geniuses in this room. So I live at, so my name is Danielle Laurent, Laurent, and I live at 16 Thistle Lane in the neighborhood of Tierra de Oro, and I purchased my home in 2005. Oh, okay. Like many of you, I immediately fell in love with the open space and undeveloped beauty of the landscape. While doing my due diligence, I asked my agent about the status of the land and whether it would remain undeveloped. My agent assured me that while development was a possibility in the future, the zoning was for large estate-sized lots of 2.5 acres each. This was designed to protect the very character of my new neighborhood. My home was a large investment for me, and over the years I have made substantial improvements in reliance of the fact that my neighborhood and the surrounding land would remain rural and open in character. I know that I cannot stop time and prevent change to those 300 acres, but I can insist that the zoning of the land, which provides for a density of 1 house per 2.5 acres, and on which I have relied from the time I bought my home, be honored. The proposed development, by clustering 150 homes on lots as small as 1/4 of an acre, imagine 2.5 to 1/4 of an acre, would irreparably scar the fragile environment and landscape. Allowing such a dramatic distortion of the long-standing residential estate zoning would be a breach of faith to all of us who have relied on that zoning to maintain the character of our neighborhoods and the reason we chose to live there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alan Fisk Williams, F like Frank, I-S-K hyphen Williams. I live at 18 Blue Canyon Vista. My property directly abuts the new development, and I am under oath. I just want to kind of rebut something Ms. Jenkins, she brought it up, trails. I think she specifically perjured herself when she said that the existing trails have been taken care of. They haven't. Specifically, they eliminated a north-south route that's heavily used by walkers, joggers, horse people, bikers. But I only mention that because she brought it up. So I'm glad you're a lawyer.
I'm not so sure.
My next issue, so many great things have been said today, but I want to bring up a specific legal issue, and that's the issue. They're required to have these bright yellow signs announcing this meeting. And the signs were placed in a way so that nobody in the Blue Canyon neighborhood, the people most affected by this development, could see any of the signs. If we could put up the map, can we do that? I can tell you where the signs are and what the problem is.
I have seen pictures of the signs in some of the written materials that have been submitted.
Okay, one's on the frontage road.
Yeah.
And then 2 were placed down by the mailboxes on Camino La Tierra. None of those signs are visible to anybody who commutes from town and goes into the Blue Canyon neighborhood. So I think, unofficially representing all my neighbors, this meeting needs to be rescheduled and reheld because those signs weren't legally placed in a way that was beneficial to the stakeholders. They should actually be placed at right angles to the road so people can see them. They're parallel, so they're pretty, if you're paying attention to driving, you wouldn't see them at all. They're way away from the road. But specifically, I'm talking about the Blue Canyon community. Those signs were not visible to any of us. So I think we need to reschedule this meeting and hold it again to be legal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tom Linton. I live at 20 Chocolate Flower Circle, which is in Las Campanas Estates 2. I am under oath. I bought my lot on the eastern edge of Las Campanas Estates 2 in 1993, built my house in 94, and moved in 1995. I previously lived in Santa Monica, California, in an urban environment where the house setbacks were 5 feet. I was looking for a change from that lifestyle and escape from the close proximity to neighbors. The setbacks in my neighborhood now are 25 feet from the property line. Part of the attraction of the area was the welcome tranquility provided by acres of open land one encountered driving from town on Camino La Tierra before 599 was built. My home was a substantial investment for me, and my property adjoins Tract A, and Jenkins Gavin never notified me of this pending development. The proposed development, by clustering 158 homes on lots as small as a quarter acre, would irreparably scar the landscape and would diminish the value of my investment. Allowing such a dramatic distortion of the long-standing residential estate zoning would be a breach of faith to all of us who relied on that zoning to maintain the character of our neighborhoods and the reason why we chose to live here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John House, and I live at 4 Arriba Circle, which is in Las Campanas Estates 2, which is within 400 feet of this development. Yes, I am. The planned Camino Verde project does not remotely conform to the goals, objectives, policies, and strategies of the Sustainable Growth Management Plan. The RESI zoning, or residential estates classification, was conceived to provide the Santa Fe County residents the option to have homes on medium-sized tracts of land with plenty of space between them and their neighbors. Through clever manipulation of loopholes, particularly the disingenuous proposal to leave open space out of undevelopable portions of these tracts. The applicant's plan desires to turn these tracts of land into a virtual Frankenstein monster of the kind of community that the RESI classification was intended to create. Pertaining to road safety, earlier the applicant's representative stated that she had no idea what was the reason behind the 100 access point distance requirement. I'm wondering if it could be that, according to law enforcement publication, it takes an average automobile traveling at 35 miles per hour, a distance of 60 to 100 feet on dry roads, to stop in ideal conditions. But that distance can jump 600 plus feet on ice. That extra distance could be the difference between a close call and a serious crash. Yet the proponent's request of a variance to permit a reduction from 100 feet to 60 feet would pose an obvious risk of increased accidents due to the possibility of traffic on Camino La Tierra not being able to stop sufficiently in time if someone carelessly exits one of those access points. Further, the applicant developer is seeking 5 access points for this project: 3 along Camino La Tierra and 2 along the off-ramp from Highway 599. 5. Most Las Campanas estates and other area communities have only 2 or 3. Arroyo Calabasas has only one. La Terraza has only one. Aldea, a much larger community, has only 2 access points. And amazingly, the community of El Dorado has only 2 access points from Highway 285. So why does this project need 5? That would just exaggerate the risks of accidents. I also want to point out something else. The applicant's agent herself recognized the place of the county placing conditions on the approval of variances. I think the same applies to the whole conceptual plan. Back when the Las Campanas subdivision was approved, many conditions were placed upon it. The developer was required to make certain road improvements to area roads, including Las Campanas Drive. It was also required to sign an agreement that it would be responsible for a proportionate part of the costs for maintaining Camino La Tierra. I think some other subdivisions were obligated to make the same commitment. So why won't the county require this developer to enter into a similar agreement? Why should other subdivisions and the other taxpayers bear the full burden of maintaining this road that, despite the fact that this development would cause increased stress on it? I suggest that the county consider, if it's thinking about, and it looks like the staff has recommended approval of these variances, why doesn't it place conditions upon the developer to A, sign such an agreement, committing to support maintenance, and maybe even do a lot of improvements to Camino La Tierra at this portion that would possibly eliminate some of the extra stress that this development is going to put on that road.
Thank you, sir. I think your time has expired, but I think that was the end of your presentation, and I appreciate those points. Thanks.
Thank you.
Are there any additional neighbors within 500 feet present in person? I think we have. I was going to say I think we have someone covered the microphone, but I don't think that's right. Anybody else, neighbor within 500 feet in person or online on the video conference? Please raise your hand if you're on the video conference and you're a neighbor within 500 feet.
Hearing Officer Hartstein, we do have Danielle Valdez online wishing to speak on this matter.
Okay, we invite Danielle, you said? We invite Ms. Valdez, I'm assuming, to speak.
Thank you. Hearing Officer Hartstein, thank you for the opportunity to be heard. My name is Danielle Valdez. That is V as in Victor, ALDEZ. My address is 15 West Wildflower. I also own the property directly adjacent to the proposed development. I affirm that I am under oath. I am opposing all 3 variance requests. I also submitted an objection letter and commend you for reviewing the 700 pages that staff received in objection to the variances for this development. So under the SLDC 4.9.7.4, a variance requires the 3 mandatory criteria findings that a request is not contrary to public interest, hardships arise from extraordinary and exceptional property conditions, and the spirit of the code is observed and substantial justice is done. None of the 3 variance requests satisfy any of those criteria. Staff nor the applicant have identified or justified the variances through criteria, but instead cited bonuses with design within the application of the conceptual plan. All 3 variances share the same defect. The request for the variance is self-created through the applicant's design choice. In each variance, the applicant's design choice generated the conflict and a variance is being used to resolve it. That's not what the variance process is for. On the driveway separation request specifically, the applicant has characterized the county's adopted 100-foot standard as arbitrary. If the belief that the standards are flawed, the appropriate remedy is not a variance. Variances cannot be used as de facto amendments, and an applicant's disagreement with the adopted standard is not a basis for relief. The applicant is using the variances to circumvent zoning standards. I respectfully request that Hearing Officer Hartstein review similar New Mexico case law on variances before issuing a decision, specifically Gould versus Santa Fe County, 131 New Mexico 405, the Court of Appeals, 2001, and Downtown Neighborhoods Association versus the City of Albuquerque, 109 New Mexico 186, Court of Appeals, 1989. Both cases are directly relevant. They establish that where land is capable of compliant development and no physical property condition prevents conformance, no exceptional condition exists. Finally, I respectfully request that you, Hearing Officer Hartstein, recommend denial to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. Are you a neighbor within 500 feet? Please come and introduce yourself and your statement.
My name is Rosie Rosenbaum. I live at 8 Punta del Cazador. I am president of the Las Cordilleras HOA, and I heard the oath and I accept it. I just want to start right now with stating my shock and surprise at the county's assessment that these variances are acceptable and that the SLDC spirit has been met with this proposal. But I shouldn't perhaps be surprised because it's the same staff that recently or seems inclined to approve a pickleball court, lighted, with hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at a new short-term rental with the court located 65 feet from their neighbor's rear portal and back bedroom. That's the same distance from that wall to that wall. So that said, I'm going to reiterate what we've already heard. The vast majority of owners served by Camino La Sierra, with some exceptions, and Las Campanas, fall under and comply with the residential estates zoning classifications and its associated use lot sizes of 2.5 acres, restricted building heights, and setbacks and construction standards. These owners built custom homes, or local builders built spec homes, respectful of these standards and the value placed on low housing density. The entrance to Camino La Sierra corridor at 599 is really the gateway to all of our communities and is zoned as residential estates. The land on both sides of La Sierra is private, and unless somehow preserved as open space, we will face development going forward, as is the case now. We have no legal issue with development that follows the rules so many of us have respected and followed, and the county acts to accommodate the additional traffic impact with road improvements. But we take serious exception to the granting of significant variances to SLDC guidelines that will make our gateway look more like like our local planned development zone communities than residential estates, and would violate the SLDC tenets of concurrence and consistency when viewed against how the majority of our residential estates zone was administered. We respectfully request the Planning Commission honor the true spirit of and values reflected in the SLDC as reflected by the existing owner lots and homes in residential estates zone, and deny the variance requested by the proposed developer. In doing so, perhaps suggest if they really want to develop this land, they return with a fully SLDC compliant proposal that addresses all valid community concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I'll ask if there are any remaining neighbors within 500 feet who would like to make a statement, either online or in person. And seeing none in person and seeing the staff indicating none online, I would like to start the opportunity for members of the public to offer a comment. I think we're doing pretty well on time. So I think if you could keep it under, could we do 2 minutes? If you could keep it under 2 minutes, I think that would work. But I am going to say, if we stray far from the variance criteria, and again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, the conceptual plan is not before me. It is relevant to the variance criteria. So if references to the conceptual plan can be discussed in the context of the variance request and the variance criteria, I would appreciate that. With that said, sir, please introduce yourself and let us know that you confirm you're under oath.
My name is Jay Feldman, and I live at 1820 Hopi Road. I'm aware that I'm under oath. I hike on this property daily. I oppose the 3 variance requests because the requests do not meet the most fundamental requirement of the code. According to SLDC, the cause of claimed difficulties or hardships must arise from extraordinary and exceptional conditions of the property itself. Simply put, the developer cannot appeal to supposed benefits or best practices of the development as justification for approval of a variance before there is proof it is some feature of the land itself that is the cause of hardship. Yet contrary to what Ms. Jenkins wishes us to believe, and the La Tierra and Las Campanas developments demonstrate, the land is not the problem, and development within the current code is possible. Upon review of the proposed development plans, it is clear that the claimed difficulties and hardships do not originate in the land as required in the code, but in fact from the developer's particular design choices, and thus are self-inflicted harms. And the code is clear. The fundamental purpose of variances does not include healing a developer's self-inflicted wounds.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Mann, M-A-N-N. I live at 42 Sunflower Drive, and I understand I'm under oath. I live about a mile from the proposed Camino Verde development, and Camino La Tierra is the main route for access to and egress from my neighborhood and home. I'm strongly opposed to this development as it will fundamentally alter the character of our community. The land in question is zoned residential E, which is supposed to maintain a semi-rural character. Instead, Camino Verde would create a semi-urban, high-density streetscape along both sides of Camino La Tierra at the entrance to our community. It would accomplish this through a misuse of variances to facilitate density. The County Land Development Code was established to serve a number of broad and sometimes competing public interests. There is a need and a place for affordable housing and open space, but these should be addressed respecting the underlying zoning and not on a parcel-by-parcel basis. The county should not endorse a cynical manipulation of the rules to shoehorn in high-density development where it doesn't belong. The SLDC says that variances should be granted rarely and only under exceptional circumstances. The conditions the developer alleges require variances are created by the development plan itself because it is out of compliance with the code. Variances are not a tool to remedy voluntary development decisions or to facilitate achievement of the density bonus. Further, the open space the developer offers in exchange for greater density is of greatly diminished ecological and recreational value because it is fragmented and will consist in part of highly disturbed land used for septic, leach field, and stormwater retention. These trade-offs do not serve the public interest and should be denied. The code was created for a reason. I urge you to respect the code.
Hello, my name is Leslie Giorgetti, and I live at 36 Tano Escondido off Tano Road. And I'm here to support the variances. I live near the La Tierra Trail system, and I live on a 2.5-acre residential estate property. And near me, I have a lot of other residential estate properties, including the Heartstone development. I think it's a good example of what these developers are trying to do. It's a combination of smaller lots where the density was transferred so they could have open space in perpetuity. It has 30 acres of open space that all the community uses. It has a combination of 2.5-acre lots and smaller lots with 100-foot lot frontage. Those homes have 0 lot lines. They are in the residential estate zoning. And I notice that the driveways have 100-foot separation between them. And I believe that as a builder and a contractor, it will be easier and make a more beautiful, cohesive subdivision to have more flexibility on a smaller tract where the driveways are placed. Thus, I support that variance. I also work in architecture, construction, and real estate. I care very much about the Northwest. I know that nobody likes development in their neighborhood and disturbances to the road, but I do believe the developers and the team will do their best to minimize that and are planning a subdivision that is in with the intent of the SLDC. I do support the 50% open space, and to do that, you have to have some smaller lots. I know what it means to try to get access to public trails across private property. Currently, that land is private property. There's no easements. I do believe that the developers are really trying their best to provide public access to the La Tierra trails off of Camino La Tierra.
Thank you. I know you're out of time, so if you just briefly could finish.
Okay, thank you. And I'm under oath. I do understand that, and I do support the other variances too.
Thank you. I am recognizing people who come to the microphone, but yes, sir, you are next, I believe, so please go ahead.
Hello. I'm under oath. My name is Mark Kagan. I live at 44 Paseo del Coyote off of Camino La Tierra and Fin del Sendero. Notwithstanding what we've been talking about, as you drive up to the mailboxes, we all appreciate that beautiful open space we have there. It's absolutely singular. It's beautiful. And notwithstanding the fact that there's only 2 ways out, one towards Las Campanas, Camino La Tierra, the other one ends at the street there at the mailboxes, and you've all seen the fires rising up of Pecos 2 years ago, correct? It looked like a volcano. We have a huge fire problem. I worked at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration for 19 years. I did most of their outreach and media. My wife was a meteorologist. For the last 2 decades, we've been having unprecedented low snowmelt, greater fire danger, no water, and it's predicted within the next, by 2050, the amount of water available will be going down at least 20 to 30% over those years, and the snowpack is going to be worse. I didn't hear anything talked about the septic system, how much water they need. If we look down at Cerrillos, with all those things being developed, many, many condos here, it's not sustainable, and I don't think the water issue is sustainable. And we're not talking about the science involved here and the dangers involved to the people here. It's going to get worse and worse. And I have not seen any scientific analysis of the sustainability of this place, and I love where we moved, and I'd hate to see it changed. And it's a fantastic place, and it's what makes Santa Fe, the open space. Let's not try to jam as much development as we can, because people will know the value of this, the cost of everything and the value of nothing is what we're dealing with right here.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Good morning. Whoop. Does not like me.
It might be the interaction with the hearing.
I'll take that off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Wayne Carson, W-A-Y-N. How about this?
Thank you, sir.
Much better. Wayne Carson, W-A-Y-N-E, C-A-R-S-O-N, 37 Sunflower Drive in Santa Fe, and I understand I'm under oath. The project's traffic mitigation solution is a roundabout to be constructed at Camino La Tierra, just north of the entryway to Frontage Road on 599. The roundabout will serve both tracks A and B, consisting of approximately 150 homes. In addition to that traffic, all traffic except the 21 homes in the southeastern portion of the project will be funneled through that roundabout. A real traffic problem, a matter not discussed in the so-called traffic report. Another matter not discussed by that analysis are the Samar's traffic plans while the roundabout is being constructed. This is a choke point. All southbound and northbound traffic will be cut off during that construction. A real problem, a deadly one if there's a fire. Data is defined as facts, statistics, or items of information that can be analyzed, and data is also absolutely necessary to validate predictive offense. This is significantly missing from the reports Samara has submitted to support its position. It would be entirely justifiable to conclude there is no such data or proper methodology. The basic of seeking variances is not unique hardship. No such claim is made, or no valid claim is made, but rather too, as both parties, the owner and Samara have made, is to make greater than usual profit.
Thank you, sir. I'll note your time has run out, and I appreciate your commentary.
The seller bought the property knowing the restrictions. The buyer has a conditional purchase agreement so that if they don't get it, they're getting out. Hardship conditions.
Thank you, sir. I'll note that the time is out. And for everyone's awareness, for applause, I'm okay with people expressing themselves in between.
I'm sorry, sir. Now that you've taken away my hearing aid, I can't hear.
No, sir, I apologize. As far as applause goes, it's absolutely fine to express yourself by applauding in between speakers briefly. I would just ask that people hold their applause while individuals are speaking, because it's not fair to those individuals given the time limitation. So please just allow people to make their statement without applauding during the statement. If you'd like to briefly applaud after the statement, that's fine. Thank you, sir.
Hello. My name is Buck Smith. I live at 51 Violet Circle, and I'm aware of the oath and agree to it. I just wanted to reemphasize one fact that was made earlier. There's no TAC letter that has been produced in this thing, and we think that's a procedural error, and we wonder whether that needs to just recommence the whole process again. Now, I want to also reiterate the fact that the code is very clear that each of these variances must individually satisfy 3 specific criteria, right? The burden's on Samara. It's not on us to rebut all this stuff. A whole bunch of fancy consultant speak and PowerPoints does not constitute a satisfaction of the burden of proof. Samara has to show that these things are in the public interest, that they don't put an undue burden on them, and that they satisfy the spirit of the code. I'll just submit to you, they have not yet done that. And I've submitted a lot of letters that are on the record. I hope you have a chance to read them. I'm not going to burden you with a bunch of that stuff. I would also suggest that the report of the staff, and I appreciate all the work the staff has done, and I understand the burden they have, especially when the consultants dump mounds of paper on them. But that report came out April 1st, a little late, but it was out at least. I was granted the right to put a letter in commenting on that. So in my opinion, it's just a weak letter. And it really represents nothing more than an acquiescence to the argument of a consultant. I mean, you would almost think the consultant dictated that letter and the staff put a rubber stamp of approval on it. Now, I just think that the hearing officer needs to give this matter the rigor that it deserves. Force Samara to prove to us, to you, that they have satisfied the burden of proof. And please give our concerns the rigor of analysis that they deserve too. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Brian Schroeder. I live at 82 Paseo Las Terrazas in Las Campanas. I'm under oath. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. We've been here almost 2 hours, over 2 hours. Nobody has quoted Bob Dylan yet. So I want to put that into the record. Bob has a line. They said what's up is down, what isn't is. They put ideas in his head that he thought were his. I want to quote from the county code. It says, one of the conditions for granting a variance is a demonstration of exceptional or an undue hardship on the owner of the land. There's been no discussion of that. I appreciate the effort in the Jenkins-Gavin's presentation, but there's a significant omission in that regard. There is no demonstration of what that undue hardship is on Samara real property. For that reason, I ask that the variance request be denied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Mann. I live at 42 Sunflower Drive, and I confirm that I am speaking under oath today. And while I oppose all three variance requests, I want to speak specifically to the setback request. In its application, the applicant puts forward a stilted and narrow definition of public interest, limiting its definition to a variety in lot home size, density, and price. And while these factors are relevant, they are not the only elements of public interest. The semi-rural nature of the resi zoning, open space, light pollution, water availability, etc., are all very critical factors. And even if the applicant's definition were taken to address public interest in its entirety, it is quite feasible to design subdivisions that meet their stated goals, absent the need for variances. And in fact, many of the neighborhoods surrounding the two tracts do just that, providing large semi-rural lots, as well as clustered denser development across a variety of price points. Let's be clear, the applicant's desire to increase the number of lots for its own purposes and economic gain are not factors in the public interest. Issues of diverse demographics and affordable housing are very important issues for us, but happily the code already addresses those, and they are attainable without variances. Secondly, as we've heard already today, the applicant does not identify any extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions of the property, nor does it identify peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties. In fact, as we've also heard, the only difficulties that they cite are of their own making, and as such, the applicant has the ability to self-cure while still providing variety across lot size, home size, design, and price. And while the applicant may not respect the code, the county should. And if the staff feel that the public interest is served by these variance requests and that they meet the requirement of extraordinary and exceptional situations or exceptional practical difficulties, they need to tell us why. I respectfully ask that staff show their work.
Thank you.
My name is Milu Velarde. I live at 20 Camino de Lila, and I am under oath. Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. I know it's running late, and I wanted to speak to the density bonus, allowing for quote-unquote more open space. I'm a homeowner off of Camino La Tierra and a certified wildlife biologist with nearly 30 years of experience in the West. I grew up in Colorado, where I witnessed the damaging consequences of rapid sprawl across the Front Range. I'm here to directly speak to the impacts of the proposed development along Camino La Tierra, not just increased traffic, but the lasting harm to wildlife and critical habitat. This area sits within an important open landscape on the northwest side of Santa Fe, where wildlife depends on relatively large, connected, and pristine pinyon juniper habitat. But what is being proposed is not just development, it's fragmentation. The science is very clear on this. When roads and subdivisions cut through open space, they divide habitat into smaller, disconnected pieces. Roads alone can reduce habitat quality, increase wildlife mortality from vehicle collisions, and block access to food, water, and breeding areas. And that is exactly what this project will do. Camino La Tierra already functions as a corridor for both people and wildlife. Adding hundreds of homes and increased traffic will turn that corridor into a barrier. Once that happens, wildlife movement doesn't just decrease, it can collapse entirely in certain areas. We know that in New Mexico, many species are already under pressure from habitat loss, and some have lost the majority of their historic ranges. Fragmenting what remains, especially in areas like this that still provide connectivity, pushes those species closer to local extinction. The issue is not whether open space is being included in the plan. The issue is whether that open space remains connected and functional. They create edged effects, hotter, drier, more disturbed environments with more predators and invasive species. If this development is approved without preserving meaningful contiguous open space and true wildlife corridors, we are not conserving habitat, we are permanently fragmenting it. I urge you to reconsider the scale and layout of this project and prioritize connected open space, because once these connections are lost, they are nearly impossible to restore. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Mario Velardi, 20 Camino dell'Isla, and I'm on the road. I want to start by stating the obvious. This variance has nothing to do with community interest. This is all about greed. It's all about money, packing more houses to make a bigger profit out of the lots. I want to talk about the traffic issue. I believe the county has already failed in terms of infrastructure. It's not just Camino La Tierra. The most direct way from Camino La Tierra to get into town is through Bachman Road. It's what I take several times per day to take my daughter to school, to go grocery shopping, and I'm sure most of the people here do the same. Bachman Road leads to a residential neighborhood with a dog park. Right now, I think the failure is because there are speed bumps, because through a residential neighborhood, we have traffic from an entire development. Now we're thinking of adding more to an existing problem. To me, you are just looking for something bad to happen. So I urge you to vote against this variance and to really consider the community interest, not just to speak about it, because this is just about money. I understand money is important, but I think people is more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Beth Winfield, six-time court, and I know I'm under oath. I opposed all variances, but most specifically the site size. I think that what they're planning on doing is bulldozing this ancient pinyon forest that we have, and the reason you have one site on 2.5 acres is to preserve those trees. And knocking all those trees down and building all that cement structure is not going to make it fire safe. It's just going to make it hotter. And I have driven out Cajo del Rio, and on that flat area by 599, you've also approved a big subdivision out there. So all that construction is going on. Aldea is speed bump after speed bump after speed bump. And now you're planning on having this construction for 10 years. And I'm really worried about fire. After going through the Paradise Fire, I feel pretty hedged in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Yvonne Chicoine. That's spelled C-H-I-C-O-I-N-E. I live at 2 Laurel Circle, which is in the Tierra de Oro development, which is adjacent to the proposed area. I agree I am under oath.
Thank you.
My husband, Tom Stark, and I oppose the grant of variances sought by Samara and ask you to reject those requests. Tom and I have owned our home in Tierra de Oro and have been full-time residents of Santa Fe County for more than 30 years. During the decades Tom and I have lived in Santa Fe, we and our neighbors have been active contributors of our time, treasure, and talent to the betterment of the community. Our commitment to the community is demonstrated and unconditional. By contrast, Samara is not and never has been a contributing member of the Santa Fe community. Contrary to what is stated in its application, which is also under oath and states the owner, Samara is not the owner. In fact, its ownership is conditioned on the grant of the variances being sought here. So an exception to the rule in order to get a non-resident, non-owner to buy in that will damage the local area and be of concern and not in the public interest to the neighbors. Samara's exception to the code's established setback standard is particularly objectionable to us. This 10-foot variance for us is generally intended for a single residence, not for 158 lot development, and it is not based on the individual conditions of that lot area. The 10-foot setback, also based on recent research I have done, is being established now by the International Residential Code, and every indication based on fire standards is a desire to increase that. And as one doesn't need to read far to know that we are in a burn zone exactly in Santa Fe County.
If you have a brief final statement,
I just had one final statement, if I might. Thank you. The variances Samara seeks are not essential except to meet their own design standards. Samara submits the variances it wants are necessary to create an attractive, sustainable built environment with diverse home sizes and designs. Those objectives can be achieved without granting the variances. In particular, our home and our neighbors' homes, all of which were built in accordance with the existing zoning standards, cannot be denied as being attractive, diverse, and sustainably built and maintained. We ask you to reject the variance request.
Thank you. And I'm gonna cut you off there.
Pardon me?
I'm gonna cut you off there. It looks like you're...
I did have one request, though. Because you have cut people off very short, and I had prepared some further remarks, will you keep the hearing record open for those who have appeared today and have not been allowed to present their entire statements?
If anyone wants... So I've already reviewed about 800 pages of written statements. If you want to submit written statements to the staff, I will look at them and I will consider them in my...
Is there a 1 week or 10-day or 2-week window in which you will keep the record open, sir?
So there's a procedural issue, and we've been discussing procedure, but there's a procedural issue with me considering evidence that was not already in the record or was presented at the hearing. There was an opportunity for people to submit written statements prior to this hearing. So I lean against keeping the record open upon consideration. And I know one gentleman passed up an exhibit. If you are here present today with a written statement to hand to me, I will take it. But otherwise, I'm not inclined to keep the record open for any additional period of time.
Thank you for your consideration. I wrote all over my statement because I'm not allowed to give it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kim Kelly. I am under oath, and I live in the La Tierra subdivision. My address is 32 Estrada Calabasa. I have spent most of my life in Santa Fe. My perspective comes from long-term engagement with this community. I'm an owner of an art gallery for 26 years, and my background intersects aesthetics, environmental stewardship, and community impact. I have served on the Sustainable Santa Fe Commission and the Business and Quality of Life Committee and volunteered for the county single-use plastics ordinance. I want to start by emphasizing that the first, not the second or the third, but the first most important criterion of the Sustainable Land Development Code is any variance request must not be contrary to the public interest. So I would like to focus on that. My primary concern is for the Tract B. I feel like this isn't a case of NIMBYism. This is a beautiful piece of land valued not only by the roughly 2,000 residents off of Camino La Tierra, but also it is used by other Santa Fe residents. People have been using this land far longer than 25 years I have lived here. At any given time, there are at least 30 cars parked there with people hiking, biking, and horseback riding. So this is not just the community that lives off of Camino La Tierra, but Santa Fe as a whole that uses this area. While the developer has graciously allowed some trail access along the periphery, the major portion, the most scenic and treasured part, and I know I'm not supposed to address design, but bear with me, will be blocked by double, potentially, 2-story walls of houses right at the entrance. This physically, and I don't know if I'm allowed to show this, but I created a AI-generated version of what it would look like coming into this beautiful land. So that is the thing that I think is going to visually impact so much as this yellow part here of high-density lots. I would like to say that a lot of people, for instance, myself and many people, we bought into this land and this area when there was the original code of 2.5, a house per 2.5 acres. And this new code is only 10 years old, and so I feel like it should respect some of us that had bought our land before and or enhance it, not diminish what we would like to see in the character of our community.
Thank you. You're out of time, so if you a brief closing statement is appropriate. But
may I just make one request?
What's the request?
Regarding the 30% slope mitigation, just roughly when she was giving her presentation, I marked the red areas and how they corresponded with this map.
What's the request?
I respect that you see that all of these red areas where they're asking for slope mitigation are abutted against tracks. So it's in the benefit of trying to produce more density and not for other reasons.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so there's nobody at the mic currently here in person. I assume that public commentary, everybody has offered who wants to offer it in person. I'm going to ask one more time about people online, whether there's anybody with a hand raised who wants to give a statement.
Hearing Officer Hartstein, there's nobody online wishing to, or indicating that they wish to speak on this matter.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to invite the applicant back to the podium to make any additional statement that they would like to make at this time.
Thank you, Hearing Officer Hartstein. Could I have the presentation pulled up? Do we have somebody available to do that? That'd be great. So just a couple of points that I think bear clarifying. And I'm focused here on accuracy is my goal here. So the variance requests before you have nothing to do with the requested density within the conceptual plan. The 158 lots that is permissible based upon the zoning, as well as based upon the density bonus for the open space preservation, has no bearing on the variances do not enable that in any way. So I think that's very important.
And I'll just ask that people be quiet or silent as they exit the room. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So with respect to the criteria, we talk about the spirit of the SLDC. And I'm going to venture that the spirit of the SLDC cannot be considered without also considering the spirit of the Sustainable Growth Management Plan that informed the SLDC. It came first. It was the basis for that code document. There are so many references in the SLDC regarding clustering of homes and preservation of open space, protecting sensitive environmental areas. There are so many references to it, we don't have time to go through them all. If there is a theme to the Sustainable Growth Management Plan, and if there is a theme to the SLDC, that is it. That is the theme. This project, in a lot of ways, is the first project to come before Santa Fe County in the last 10 years that models every single bit of it to the T. What we are trying to achieve here is a sensitive development of a terrain-based model of development. We take our flatter, gentler slopes, and we have smaller lots there. Where we have a little more terrain, we have larger lots. That is an appropriate measure. Now, could we go in, like I said, and plop houses on the steep terrain? Sure, we could. There's nothing in the code that says we can't do that. But it's not the best and most appropriate and sustainable way to develop. So the clustering, so we're taking clustering beyond just make the lot smaller and preserve open space. We're being very intentional about the lot sizes relative to the terrain of where they live. It's a very critical point. That is in the public interest. 100% it's in the public interest to protect our steeper slopes, to cluster smaller lots on flatter terrain, protecting existing vegetation and drainage ways. That is absolutely in the public interest. And the setback variance does just that. And I do just want to point out, with respect to the open space, we are proposing a community wastewater treatment system that will be developed on site. We submitted a preliminary engineering report to Santa Fe County that was also reviewed by the New Mexico Environment Department. And with respect, let's see which way I want to go here. I'm going to go back. I think it is worth revisiting the purpose of the residential estate zoning district. We talk about a combination of large lot. Our largest lot is 3.67 acres. And suburban type residential development, which would be a good description of our 1/4 and 1/3 acre lots. Single family homes, medium-sized lots. Our average lot size is about 8/10 of an acre across the project. We could argue all day what medium means, but I'm going to venture that it falls in that category. We have low to medium density residential development. So 1 house per 2.5 acres is the standard, is the math. With our density bonus, we're at 1 house per 1.92 acres. So I would call that very much low density development. Density transfers and clustering, here it's referenced. Every residential zoning category in the code says this same thing. We need to be clustering our homes and preserving open space. And let's just talk about character for a moment. Let me just grab. So looking at our most adjacent neighborhoods, so I mentioned this is the Aldea community here. The Aldea community has 1.5 lots per acre. Their average lot size is 15/10 of an acre. Less than a quarter of an acre is the average lot size in Aldea down the road. Next door is the Tessera community. The Tessera community, average lot size, average is a third of an acre. There's 1.14 lots per acre in Tessera. Our average lot size is about 8/10 of an acre. And we have 0.52, half a lot per acre. Okay? Now, let's look at, we've heard of a lot of residents in the Tierra de Oro community. That is our most adjacent community that is adjacent to us to the north. The Tierra de Oro community has 0.45 lots per acre. So, and what's even more striking is that the Tierra community has 11% open space. So that, when we talk about open space and what has happened potentially to wildlife corridors, if you look at these lots, what are you not seeing? You're not seeing a lot of open space. What do you see here? 157 acres of it. And that, let me just go back. I'm trying to find where, there we are. So everything you see in orange, most of these trails are already existing. We are adding new trail connections as well. It's over 4 miles of trails preserved for public access. Does not currently exist today. We have the Arroyo Frijoles that comes through, all in open space. Significant areas of open space to the north. We have the Pipeline Trail. We have the old Chili Line rail bed preserved in easement. We have the Arroyo Frijoles Trail that runs to the north here. We have another existing trail that runs along this drainage here. There will be a safe pedestrian crossing at the roundabout. We are also working with the Public Works Department on a mid-block crossing to allow for trail connectivity from the west to the east. This is the model for what we should be supporting in Santa Fe County. And I think with that, I'm going to ask Orlin Guerrero-Ortiz, our civil engineer. She just wanted to come up and just address a few items with respect to the slope variance, and then we'll be happy to stand for any questions. Thank you.
Okay. I'll note, so I'm reluctant to impose a time limitation on the applicant, given that the applicant bears the burden, but I just wanted to ask about how long do you think you'll need? Yeah.
Gosh, I've never really thought about it. Maybe 5 minutes at most.
Okay, 5 minutes. If you could do 5 minutes, that would.
Oh, I don't think I need anything else. Okay. I'm Orlin Guerrero-Ortiz. I'm a civil engineer in town. I own Design Ingenuity. I have been sworn in.
We're going to ask you also to, if you weren't sworn in before, or even if you were, just to give an address and an acknowledgement that you're under oath as well.
I'll give you my P.O. Box. It's P.O. Box 2758 here in Santa Fe.
And just acknowledge that you're under oath. Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Just acknowledge that you're under oath.
I am under oath. Okay. I wanted to speak to a statement that I heard that suggested that AASHTO, suggested that there was a 100-foot requirement for a driveway separation from an intersection. I'll just say that's not true. You're supposed to consider speed, sight distance, and various other factors when you consider where a driveway should be located next to an intersection, but there is no 100-foot standard in AASHTO. I've looked all over for a standard, and there isn't one. You're really supposed to focus on sight distance and things like that, which I have done. And I can tell you we could get away with probably less than 60 feet, but I think 60 feet is comfortable given that we have homes or lots that have 100-foot frontage, a 100-foot setback just isn't possible. And so that's the reason we were requesting the 60. But 60 is certainly allowed by any kind of engineering standard in the United States. I also want to speak to the slope disturbance requirement. And I will say that request for variance came directly from me. I've worked a lot in this terrain along this area and have found this problem with head cutting and significant erosion in the arroyos in this area. I've worked throughout Las Campanas, throughout Aldea and Tercera, and various other locations in this area. It's a problem with the soils. And it's not a cost-saving measure. I mean, I actually have to sell this to my clients, spend this extra money because it's in the public's interest to keep soil in place and not have it running down through your arroyos and clogging downstream culverts and causing problems for your neighbors and for your own development. It is certainly in the public interest to stabilize soils and any chance you can. It is in the spirit of the SLDC, certainly, to keep those soils in place. That's called out in the terrain management regulations. And also, to not do it would cause an undue hardship, not only to the, this development in the sense that it just creates additional maintenance, but it would create additional maintenance downstream too, because there are other crossings of these arroyos downstream that would be also impacted. And whether it would affect just things slightly off-site to the west or to the north along the Frijoles. In every case, what we do on our land here to stabilize soils protects the neighborhoods and the greater sense. So I just wanted to add that to the record. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any additional questions for the applicant. I appreciate your presentation, and I appreciate everyone's participation today. As Mr. Voss said at the beginning of the meeting, I will issue a recommended order with findings of fact and conclusions of law within 15 business days, and the case is anticipated to be presented next in May, and that information is available on the agenda for today. Thank you, everyone. We'll be off the record now.
Can I give the hearing officer, you asked for if there was any written matter in the record regarding the improper notice for the hearing.
I'm aware that there is information that has been submitted that's in the record, and I'm familiar with the issue.
Exhibit I, pages 562 to 567, and 698 to 702.
Yes, I've seen that, and I'm familiar with that. Thank you.